You may have heard of Eckhart Tolle before, if that's how you say his name. I'd heard of him, I'd read about him in a book, I think, before, because the name was so familiar to me. When I found this book in our house, I decided to start reading it. So, doing some research on him will reveal that he is a spiritual teacher, and he has an interesting story of spending 7 years just walking around homeless. He's German. His birth name is Ulrich Toll, but he took Eckhart after he changed his name to that in honor of another spiritual teacher that I think was in the 1800s. So, A New Earth is this book, and I was reading through it, just actually skimming, because I had started that book itself at the beginning, and it talks about the flowering of human consciousness, and so it talks about flowers, which is nice, and each little the start of the chapters and stuff have little flowers like that. I kind of like that. But there was one part that I found that quotes the Sermon on the Mount, and he talks about, if I could find it again, but you know, that's all I get for skimming through, not being able to find this stuff again. But he says that when Jesus says that blessed are the poor in spirit, for they will, I think it says either theirs is the kingdom of heaven, or they will inherit, I think it's, yeah, they will inherit the kingdom of heaven, something like that. I have a chant CD that has a recitation of much of the Sermon on the Mount, if not all of it, Orthodox chants, but, you know, that, he says, poor in spirit means, I think it had to do with ego, and it was like, no ego. And then kingdom of heaven, he said, was, I think, some sort of enlightenment, or something like that, which I thought was an interesting interpretation, because poor in spirit, I always thought it meant, you know, the downtrodden people. But to say that poor in spirit means emptying themselves of themselves, a somewhat Hindu or Buddhist idea, letting the self just go, to say that's what that means is sort of, it shocked me actually, because, you know, Jesus wasn't some normal teacher of philosophies. He said things that were very absolute, and he said other things that you could interpret to be whatever you feel, I guess. As with anything, really, any ancient teachings, people will interpret them however they want or see fit. So that's what he's done. But I'm pretty darn sure that's not what that means. And to say that is kind of strange. It's another one of those New Age interpretations of what Jesus said to fit this idea that he has. And so I kind of was surprised and taken aback by that. But then I thought about it and I thought, well, these are just his ideas. So he quotes Jesus a couple times, from what I've seen. There was another part where he mentions, I forgot it, but basically, he is taking things and just completely altering the meaning that Orthodox Christianity has established, which is what people shouldn't do, and that's one of the reasons I am more for a consensus of what texts mean within a church, and the group of people agreeing through councils or whatever it may be for what the Bible says, instead of this kind of nonsense that he says. He uses a play on words, and that was it. The other time he quotes Jesus, he says that the Greek word is misinterpreted all the time. I forgot what it was, though, still. I just thought, these sort of spiritual teachers like to do that, take whatever they want or can find that's spiritual in any way and interpret it and use it however they want. So yeah, that's about it. I'll see you guys later. Check this book out even. It's part of Oprah's book club. So, which, spiritually speaking, it's gonna be what you get. Relativists, basically. He talks about relativism. He disagrees with it, but this doesn't make sense to what he writes. His interpretations are just wacky. So, see ya.